one of the top producers, not just in Pennsylvania, but in the country. I mean, we're talking outstanding numbers, 180 million in production.
I worked in corporate America. I said to myself, I'm sick and tired of having someone tell me what I can do, what I can't do. My father-in-law was in the business. A lot of my friends were realtors. I just love the fact that the harder I work, the more you make. The more you put into it, the more you get out. I just hate it when people tell me, you're limited on what you can do and what you can make. I'm saying to myself, how are all these people doing the volume that they do? I mean, guys are massive, doing 200 plus, 300 plus. Giving up control is the hardest thing, but it's the best thing. Picking the right group to be able to help you. But in order to get to that next level, you have to.
Welcome to the Real Estate Show with Pat Lopez, where we talk everything real estate. Today, my guest is Paul Zgalich from Guaranteed Rate. Paul, welcome to the show.
Awesome, Pat. Looking forward to it.
Okay, so it's my pleasure to have a superstar here on the show, one of the top producers, not just in Pennsylvania, but in the country. I mean, we're talking outstanding numbers. We're not going to get too much in the numbers, but we're talking 180 million in production. So some super big numbers. But before we get into all that, how'd you scale? How'd you get started? Those kind of things. Why mortgages? How did you start? How long ago? What did that look like?
Sure, yeah. So I worked in corporate America, starting in 1999, and I said to myself, I'm sick and tired of having someone tell me what I can do, what I can't do, and there was an opportunity for me to get out of corporate America and get into the mortgage business. And at the time, my father-in-law was in the business, and so I had this great opportunity.
Right.
A lot of my friends were realtors, so I said, you know what? If I'm ever going to do it, I'm young. This is the time for me to kind of make that transition. So I just love the fact that the harder I work, the more you make, right? The more you put into it, the more you get out. I just hated where people tell me, you're limited on what you can do and what you can make. And, there's really nothing better than you're at the closing table with somebody for that first-time home buyer, and you help them get that mortgage into that first house.
Right. Perfect. Okay, so when did you start? Like, how many years ago?
Yeah, so I started in 2008, and literally for the first 8 months, I didn't do anything.
Right.
I sat in a cube and listened to everyone talk. I listened to, Pat, you were in that office back in the day. I would sit up there and just listen to people talk. I took everything in, and I got in at 2008, right when the market crashed in 2007.
Right.
Huge refi boom. So I just focused on all friends and family in the business, and I met a lot of realtors during that time. But 2008 is when I got into it, and I said, if there's better time, this is the worst time to get in, because it's not going to get much worse than that. So 2008 is when I started.
Okay, very good. Okay, so like I said, top producer, 180 million. What was that, like 400 and some odd loans?
We did 439 loans last year. Is right like 180 million.
Right. So big numbers, right? So at what point, and we're going back, 18 years ago, 17 years ago, 15 years ago, when did you have that ha-ha moment where you said, you know what, this could work out for me. This could be my career. Like, was there any epiphany that happened, or what did that look like?
So I just, working for a family business and seeing my father-in-law succeed and then my brother-in-law, it was an opportunity for me to really understand that side of the business. And I just enjoy being out in public. I enjoy talking to people, being in front of realtors, meeting different realtors. And I knew at that point, this was something that I could really enjoy. Again, I think the key is, the sky's the limit. The more you put into your job, the more you get out of it. And being and flexibility, Pat. We can talk about flexibility. Like, I go fishing, right? I do a lot of different things that I never thought you could do with having the business that we have as a team. But again, I just knew that this was something that I could really get into.
Okay, so at what point did you go where and I'm talking about scaling up. At what point did you turn around and say, okay, I need some help. I need a loan officer assistant. I need something here because I can't do everything myself, number one. And then number two, did you feel a little funny like, hey, somebody else is going to be doing that, the income ratios, look at my numbers, was there any issues with control as well? So how did that look?
Yeah, I think that's the hardest part that we've ever faced in this business, giving up control. I was a guy that was doing 25 to 35 million for 10 years, 9 years. And I'm saying to myself, how are all these people doing the volume that they do? I mean, guys are massive doing 200 plus, 300 plus million. And I said to myself, there's got to be something, and I wanted to find out. And giving up control is the hardest thing, but it's the best thing, right? Picking the right group to be able to help you. I have the same people that worked with me that no one's ever left me, right? So I trust everyone on my team, right, and I give them full control. Like my realtors nowadays, they don't even come to me anymore. They go directly to the team. Giving them service, all they care about is the service, right? Doesn't matter who's working on the loan, just as long as they have proper service. And again, it was hard, but in order to get to that next level, you have to give up control and you have to let people help you. I mean, our system, how we operate is called a pod model. So we have multiple different layers of people touching the loan, but I fully trust that they're going to do a good job getting the loan done. So
okay, so how many people are on your team or on your pod?
Right. So I have 7 operation people, and then I have 2 AVPs. 2 AVP are loan officers that just got into the job, just got started, that do some volume, that help. But I have a business development. A business development person is probably the most important part of your growth in the business, right? I do a ton of events, right? And without having someone to help me do those events, scheduling, setting those things up, we probably do 2 events a month, which is very, very important. You got to be on the road. You got to be out in front of people.
Okay, very good. So let's talk about building the business. So you say it's important with these events. What do these events look like? Well, what are you doing? Are there lunch and learns?
Yeah, sure. So, one of the things that really helped the success is I focus on teams, right? I focus on larger teams where I think that I can get in and help grow those teams. I love working with brand new agents. I think it's the best because they're going to listen to you. They're going to understand, what you're telling them, and you build trust and you build a relationship early out in the business. But again, events are super important. So lunch and learns are something that we do often. I'll do a one-on-ones with certain agents, client appreciation events, which is very important. We do something for National Women's Month where we'll go out and we'll give candles to all our women agents, right? Just a little touch, right? Something simple, but again, it's another way for me to have an opportunity to call that agent, shoot them a text, check in with them, what's going on. Some of the larger events, I did a mastermind, which was great. We had 100 people in King of Prussia where I invited all my agents in the area. I had 2 big speakers come in, someone talking about the NAR. Remember when that all started happening? Mm-hmm. I had someone talk about that, and I had someone talk about first-time home buyers and what to focus on. So again, it doesn't have to be something elaborate, but just being able to touch agents is great.
Okay. Are you thinking about buying, refinancing, or investing in real estate? I've been a loan officer for 30 years, helping my clients find the right loan for the right property. I keep it simple and honest. If you want real numbers and guidance you can trust, give me a call. Now let's get back to the show. Let's talk about ramping up because now you have a team, you have systems in place, all that. So how do you ramp up? So if I'm a newer, because there's a bunch of loan officers, realtors, and it doesn't matter if you're a realtor, if you're a loan officer, any business is business. So how did you ramp up? How did you go and speak to a realtor to turn around or go talk to a team? Now you're confident because you have the numbers and you have the skill behind you, the knowledge, everything that takes place with it. But how does somebody start?
I mean, the key that I think is important is after every one of my transaction closes, I call the listing agent personally. I check in with them, right? I ask them if there's anything that we could do better, right? Is there something, and you don't get a ton of response, but you do get people to respond back to you. You have to be able to communicate and connect with agents. I've knocked on doors. I first started, that's the first thing I did. I would knock on real estate doors, right? Meeting agents. And once you find a good group, then you ask those agents, hey, is there anyone that you think in your office that I would work well with?
Right.
Which is great. And then my biggest attribute really is my team success. I have 4 really large teams. I mean, one of my teams has 50 plus agents on it. So I'm not going to get all that business.
Right.
You get into the office, you show that you can do a good job. You have a deal that's really, really hairy. You take those tough deals, right?
Right.
It's like you're on a job interview. So, if you can overcome doing that one transaction, works out well, I think it's key that people in the office will start talking about how well things are. But again, I think you have to be on the road. You have to be in front of people. By you're doing that, you can't be in front of the computer, right?
Right.
You can't be engaged in every loan that comes in. Trusting the people that you have around you. And that was the hardest part for me to do. But again, letting your team handle certain situations, letting your team handle some volume is key.
Okay, so let me ask this question. What do you think your superpower, or what is your thing that you think made you successful, in business, period? Like, what do you think that is?
I think I just respect. I mean, I treat people like other will be treated, which is important. But I think the biggest thing for me is my desire to win. I take all my athletic ability in sports. I hate losing, Pat. I hate getting beat out, right? So whether it's being competitive on a transaction where you're going aggressive with interest rates, my ability and hunger, my drive to success, I don't ever stop, right? I mean, there are weekends that you're constantly working. There's no 9 to 5 schedule in our business.
Right.
You know that, Pat. I mean, it's Saturdays, Sundays, weekends, nights. You're constantly out on the road. You're constantly doing things. And again, the key is having people to help you, right? You can't be in 10 different places at one time. The other thing, Pat, that's important that I know that you still do it, and I've done it up until COVID, is going to your closings, right?
Right.
How do you meet new agents? Go to your closing. It's a free opportunity
Absolutely.
to meet somebody new. And I used to go to every single closing. COVID happened, and we started closing more volume, and it just got really tough to get there. But again, I think that's very important for anyone new in the industry. Go into your closings, go into each one of them. You're meeting a new agent. It's great. It's a great opportunity.
Right. Okay, so give me a typical day. What does that look like?
Yeah, so for me, first thing in the morning, I look at my pipeline, right? Well, I do go to the gym, do a little 6'10" gym class, but I look at my pipeline. We have the ability to do overnight protection with locks. So I'm going to look at everything that I have unlocked, right? And I'll talk to my team about locking a loan in before 8:30 because I can lock it on yesterday's pricing. And then what I do is I spend at least an hour or 2 hours a day reaching out to agents that I've dealt with in the past. I'll shoot them a text, right? That's fine, little touches.
Right.
You have to, again, engage yourself, be in front of agents. And then what I'll do, probably 3 or 4 days a week, I'll take the time where I'll call a listing agent on a transaction that we had. But for me, a lot of times, or I'll even go to the offices. I present on one of my offices every Wednesday where I do a sales meeting. I'm on the road doing different things like that. You just can't sit behind your desk. You know that, right? It's important for you to be in front of people, be visual, be out on the road, and I think it's a major part of your growth and success.
Okay, and now how often do you talk to the clients?
Yeah, so
To the buyers.
So typically, depending upon, I have some agents that say, "Hey, Paul, I want you to handle this transaction." So I'll talk to 50% of the people up front, and then once that application comes through, either myself or one of my colleagues on my team will then set up a follow-up appointment. So going into the transaction, that client knows they're pre-approved. What is their max? What potentially is the current interest rate, or are they eligible for any grant programs or anything along those lines? So going into the transaction, they know that up front. Then once they go under contract, either myself or someone else on my team transitions that file to the next round.
Okay, very good. Yeah, because with dealing with so many people, it's impossible. You can't talk to every person 10 times a day.
Right. And you know what? You look at some of these guys that are doing massive numbers, and it's physically impossible to be able to talk to everybody. You can't, right?
You can't.
You know, and I would love to. And there might be times where I touch everyone in a beginning month, but you just have to let go and let the rest of the team handle things. Where, you know, my processor has been with me since 2008. I trust him more than anything that he's going to get that client into the next round, right? Then I have a closing coordinator. She's amazing. I know that she's going to do a great job getting that loan into closing for a clear to close.
Okay, great. Okay, so how has, from when you started, 18 years ago or so, how did the technology change, and how did that help you, do more volume?
So, I mean, listen, I need to get better at technology, but the social media, AI stuff. I mean, we have an unbelievable platform where I have a person, an AI phone call. It's a person that calls on my behalf, calls anyone that's eligible for a refinance, meaning they're going to save a half a point to 1 point or maybe even greater. They're going to call on my behalf. They're going to ask the client if they would like to have a conversation with me. Then they transfer that client into me, and I'm having a full conversation through AI technology, which is wild to be able to have. I never thought that would exist. Social media is great. I mean, you have to be present. You have to be on social media. You have to be out in the field. But the AI technology is great. We have a text alert where we're sending out text to clients about refinancing. It comes from my phone number. It looks like it's just like me.
Right.
Again, the technology that we're facing is wild.
Now, with the social media, that kind of thing, are you doing it, or do you have somebody who works with you?
Yeah, so we have an unbelievable platform. I have a business development person that posts on my behalf, whether it's social media, Facebook, Instagram, that she does everything for me from that platform, which is good. And I respond, and we have a corporate page, which is important, but social media, Mike, I mean, you look at all the agents, a lot of agents post stuff, the lenders post stuff. It's just another opportunity to get out there. And I don't want to brag about it, it's just the way that you come out and you transition that post is what I do. I don't want to sit there and brag about certain things.
Right. And it's good when you have that team. Everybody's doing their piece of the puzzle to make the whole thing work. Okay, great. Okay, so question for you: if you were a new agent, or let me ask it this way: if you were starting out today, brand new, what you know. In the first 30 days, what would you do? What would be the one activity that you believe that would generate the most amount of business for you?
Yeah, I think it's tough for new agents, especially in this market right now, just because of where the business is and the lack of inventory, right? The lack of agents that are still, there's a lot of agents that got out of the business, right? So I think it's very difficult to start out new in this business. And a couple of things that I would do, when I first started, I literally had an email distribution list of every person that I know, friends, family, you name it.
Right.
I let everybody know that I got in the industry, and I had maybe 250 to 300 contacts of just past friends and family. Blast it out there what you're doing, right? I've knocked on doors. I think that's a great part of doing different things. But you need to get your name out there. You need people to know that you're in that industry. But it's hard, right? It's really hard. I think that this is probably the most challenging part that I faced because, for the first 12 months, I didn't do anything. I sat behind a desk. I didn't realize what is the best thing to do. And for me, that distribution list really, really helped me a lot. But, it's a really tough situation right now, especially with higher interest rates. And finally, we're starting to see things come down. But if you got in like in 04 or 2024 or 2025, it's challenging. I mean, it really was. And we had some ups and downs in the industry.
Okay. And a couple more questions and we'll wrap it up. But your relationship with your, realtor partners, being so busy, not potentially being able to talk to them every day or once a week, how do you maintain those relationships?
Yeah, one of the things that I think is extremely important, I have friends in the industry. I have relationships with my agents where I've been invited to weddings, I've been invited to their kids' birthdays. I just stay in touch constantly. And what I do, like I said, I spend 2 hours a day. I'll just shoot a text message out to my customer base or my agent base. And it's just, hey, how you doing? It's not like, do you need anything? Just saying hello, just little things like that. You stay in front of them. I also send out 3 times a week, I send emails out to my current customer base, my current agent base, and then anyone that I've done a transaction with on the selling side will reach out to any of the listing agents. We have a pretty big company, so I have to look and see if anyone in my company is dealing with those agents, so you don't want to cross paths. That's the last thing you want to do. But I physically touch listing agents, buyer's agents, and customer base 3 times a week through a MailChimp. It's a great program. It's unbelievable staying in front of people.
Okay, great. Okay, so this is a question which could bring, some anxiety to you a little bit here. But what was the hardest lesson, or one of the hardest lessons you had to learn in this business?
When I first started, like I said, for the first year, I might have done, 2 or 3 loans. It was the most challenging thing, and cold calling. Like I came into wireless, and I came from cold calling. I would cold call agents all day long, and the amount of times I've got hung up on, I don't want this, I don't want that, until you developed a name, right? Where I'm at today, and I think I have a good opportunity to win some new agents,
right?
Not because of our past, but agents are extremely loyal, which is great. I mean, you can. It's so hard to get into the new agent, into that new agent side of things, because they're loyal, which is good. But a lot of things too, I think we got to look at is agents where you can do compliance spends, where you're doing different things, whether it's realtor.com, whether it's Zillow. Those things a lot of times do help, because you're doing stuff that can help those agents financially, because a lot of times they're struggling in certain cases. I mean, during COVID was a really tough year for agents. So if there's things that you can do compliant wise, that I really enjoy doing.
Right. I think they came out with a stat that agents that are doing 20 or more transactions, it's like 3%.
Yeah,
it's crazy. So yeah,
it's very tough, and I think there's times that there's a lot of agents get out of the business, a lot of lenders get out of the business. So if there's ways that you can help with spends of theirs, whether it's a client appreciation or something that will help them generate business, I think it's a great thing.
Okay, and last question. Well, second to last question. Then, if anybody wants to get a hold of you, learn more about you, maybe join a team if there's any openings, anything like that. What do you like doing for fun? Like, what's your escape?
For me, sports, which is great, but I love to go offshore fishing, and there'll be days where I'm on the water for 24 to 36 hours, and I said to myself, when I first got in the business, that's the worst thing in the world, right? Because your phone doesn't work when you're 100 miles offshore. You get back, you turn your phone on, the text messages, the emails. I'm like, oh my God, this is crazy. Elon Musk, Starlink. We have Starlink on the boat, which is absolutely amazing. I can sit on the boat, I can respond to emails, I can FaceTime, I can talk. But for me, honestly, it's fishing is the number one thing. Then the other thing too is I love watching my kids play sports, being out on the road, watching those types of things, which is great. These are all the things that you look at these high-end producers. These guys are spending time with their kids. They're doing things, right? You can do all of those things if you build the right foundation around you.
Okay, and success. What does success look like for you? You're young, you're still ambitious, you still have years ahead of you. Are you happy where you're at? You said you're super competitive. You want to continue growing, but then you have to balance that with family time, you're fishing, and all that kind of stuff. So what does success look like for you?
Success is again, we talked about in the beginning, is being able to put more time and effort in, and financially it's great. The more you work, the more you make, which I think is great. But successfully having healthy family, healthy lifestyle, and being able to do certain things that other people can't do, like during the week on a 9-to-5 type of thing. I love the competition. I love being able to get out and do certain things where, again, if I was working a 9-to-5 job, I couldn't do that. I just think that family, friends is super important. But I'm looking forward to those types of things.
Okay, great. Okay, so if somebody wanted to get a hold of you, how would they do that? What's the best way?
You can go to Paul.Zgalich@rate.com, or just give me a call on my cell phone at some point, 215 855-416-5958.
And we'll put those numbers up and everything. Well, Paul, we will go back, once again, full disclosure, we started working out together many years ago at Cardinal Financial. So it's been a long time, and I sort of did okay, but you sort of did great.
No, listen, I learned a lot from Pat in the beginning in the Cardinal days, but I want to ask Pat one thing. I mean, you're the king of grants, you're the king of PHFA. How do you scale that type of business and be able to do that volume? Because they're very challenging loans. Like, what do you do on a daily basis to be able to get through that?
The most important thing is know all the little nuances. Know the product inside out and backwards, because there's, hey, the regular mortgage business. I know a regular conventional loan. I know a regular FHA loan. But there's these overlays, and there's things that you wouldn't even think of, like you have a married couple. Well, the wife owns a house, but the wife's not on the loan. So, and your borrower says they're renting. Well, you need to still ask the question, hey, does your wife's moving in? Yes. Well, does your wife own a house? And it's something that you wouldn't think of, and you wouldn't see it necessarily because it wouldn't be on the credit because the wife's not on the loan. It's household. So it's like little nuances. That the income ratio, so it's a lot more work without question. But if you really understand inside out and backwards, then it simplifies a lot. And just like anything else, asking the right questions up front so you don't get caught 2 or 3 weeks down the road.
That's one thing that I think is key is the more that you know, the more you're going into it, the more questions that you ask, it just helps you set up that better application. And
absolutely,
it's the worst when you find out things in the middle or the end of the transaction. So knowing everything up front, again, I agree, is super important. But dude, well done on the king of the grant, king of PHFA. I appreciate it, Pat. Thanks for the time, man.
There you go. Well, thanks for being on the show. Now that's the Real Estate Show with Pat Lopez. Be sure to follow the show on Facebook, Instagram, and of course YouTube, The Real Estate Show with Pat Lopez. I'm approaching 50,000 subscribers. Help me get there to that 50,000. Do some likes, also comments. Always read comments, like to hear what you have to say, and some show topics in the future. Hope you enjoyed the show. Remember, this show is everything real estate. See you next week.